different
let's
plays.
just get into it. The game of the week is Chargers at Dolphins. And each week, guys, we will go into the game of the week. And, it will be very obvious what the game of the week is, depending on how they turn out. But that was the exciting game. Should have been a Jim Nantz, Tony Romo game. But instead, they had them in, I think, did they do the Patriots-Eagles one? They might have.
Yeah, the CBS, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into that one too. But, listen, outside of being a Dolphins fan, obviously I'm a Dolphins fan, so I'm trying to look at it as a analyst and obviously picking up from what other people are saying around the league too. Yeah, Mike McDaniel is the magician behind everything. And yeah, maybe he doesn't have a Joe Burrow or a Justin Herbert athlete at quarterback. But the way Tua played was the best game I've seen of his career.
Oh, yeah.
He did have that game against the Ravens last year I brought up in my Dolphins recap, and that was an exciting game. A lot of that also was due to mishaps with the Ravens.
Yeah.
Whereas this game was, on paper, the Chargers arguably are one of the best defensive teams. You would say, oh, that's the best defense.
Yeah.
They got all the players.
Yeah.
They have Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa.
Yeah. And then they have the best safety, Derwin James.
Derwin James, the highest paid safety.
Highest paid safety.
And then one of the highest paid cornerbacks from
he's
your
supposed
time.
to be good, but he shit the bed yesterday. Really bad.
I can't say that he's not good because he went up against the hardest guy. One of the segments today, they said, is Tyreek Hill the scariest person to play against in the NFL? One was like, no, it's Patrick Mahomes. But one could argue in recent years since Randy Moss is just the scariest guy to have to cover.
Yeah.
And J.C. Jackson went up against him on single coverage multiple times. And that's kind of what they were breaking it down is how do you let him go one-on-one after he burnt him a couple times?
Well, it's because you got guys like River Carcraft or whatever going on.
Going across the middle,
Yeah.
though. So you're like, all right, we won't have Tyreek. But Tyreek was eating it up in the middle, which they were taking away last year against the Dolphins. But you had Carcraft, you had Waddle, you had Burrows.
Yeah.
Barrios.
Braxton Berrios.
Listen, when the game's happening, I'm watching. I'm like, yeah, these are big dump-offs, like 30, 40 yards. But it didn't seem like that crazy. In the second half, you had the 2 big touchdowns. But
there was that one that he stepped up on.
That was when we were the game-winning drive.
Yeah.
Where he almost gets sacked, and he throws Tyreek and
yeah.
it kind of just drops in.
Yeah. That one was kind of like Josh Allen-esque with the way he steps up and just kind of flung it real quick. That was pretty cool. They were saying the best throw of his career so far. Yeah.
Stepping up and throwing it in stride just in time before the safety gets there and basically puts them in field goal range, which they needed more than a field goal anyways, but gets them in position to get the go-ahead winning touchdown. I wouldn't say it was a winning touchdown because the defense had to win the game, but, all around, you're looking at the offense, and I'm like, in the first half, I was like, I'm watching the game. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And I go, let me open up my phone and look at the stats. I go, the guy had 300 yards passing at halftime. I go, what?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, what? I didn't know it was that much. And I go, how is this happening? It almost like it's just happening piece by piece. But then you look at it like Tyreek had 4 different catches in the first half that were like 30 yards, 20 yards. One of his catches is like a 5-yard catch, and he takes it for another 20 yards. Dude, how are you going to stop that?
He just runs at will. You see, he kind of just runs out of bounds too, and he doesn't really get hit much. Yeah,
don't get hit.
Yeah,
but even Waddle did it too. Waddle has a short in route for like 10 yards and then goes for 20.
Yeah, Waddle's speedy, dude.
They're both really fast. If they catch it in open field, even when there's still some players there, if there's 5 yards between them and a defender.
Yeah.
They're not catching them. They're going to go another 10 yards, and that safety is going to have to come in.
Yeah, you're right.
So
elusive.
Listen, assuming they can keep Tua healthy, if they keep this up, we're going to look at some record-breaking years for maybe some of these wide receivers or anything. Like, it's just like.
Do you think the defense can keep up with like the Chiefs? A healthy.
I think the defense
Burrow?
will be even better. It's game 1 with Fangio.
Uh-huh.
I think when it mattered, they stepped up. He threw in some blitzes. Listen, defensively, the run defense wasn't good at all.
Yeah.
But they put a lot of they're focused on, hey, let's have Eckler beat us, not Herbert.
Uh-huh.
All right, and stopping the outside. Neither of the receivers had over 100 yards receiving. Wow. Second, they on defense, when they really needed a stop, they got the Chargers to punt in the first half. When the Chargers went up and we were like going back and forth after our fumble, then we started having the lead.
Yeah.
Then we throw the pick in the end zone, 3 and out.
Yeah.
They punt a horrible punt. We have the ball at the 35-yard line. Okay,
Uh-huh.
There's that. Then we have another stop before half that gives us time to get a pass interference call, which is the deciding factor.
Field goal, yeah.
Yeah, and then most importantly, the way the defense showed up in the end, at the end of the game, when you're like, listen, Dolphins go, they score a touchdown, and we miss the extra point. You're sitting there going, oh, what a typical Dolphins way to lose.
Yeah.
I go, there's 2 minutes on the clock. They got 2 timeouts. Under 2 minutes, right? But there's like a minute 40 with 2 timeouts. I go, I don't care who you are. I don't care if it's Kirk Cousins. I don't care if it's Zach Wilson. I'm like, you're getting in field goal range. It's very with that. There's enough time. Probably not with Zach Wilson, but there's enough time with the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, Herbert.
Yeah.
And you just hired Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
You rushed for 200 yards. You could still run the ball. You have 2 great wide receivers. You have a great running back. You have a great quarterback. You're supposed to have this elite offense. You have plenty of time. There's no rush. There's no reason, if I'm a Chargers fan, that you don't get in field goal range. This is your game to win.
Yeah.
Even as a Dolphins fan, you're like, man, we got down there fast. You got to take what you get. We scored. You missed a field goal. In my mind, I'm like, we'll stop them. They're not going to score a touchdown. But when we missed the extra point, I go, this sucks.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very tough one to swallow because we should have won it because of the missed snap.
Yeah.
And they gave us the field goal. I'm like, we're going to lose by a field goal. I'm ready for it.
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, I said this for years now. I go, everybody's like Herbert or Tua. I go, yeah, Herbert's better. He's got the crazier numbers, rookie records, most yards in the first 3 seasons as a quarterback in history. He throws a great ball. But my one note on him, first of all, coming out of college was not that he wasn't a great quarterback, not that he was a great athlete, is that he's not good at adjusting to defenses.
Okay.
He doesn't read them as well. And then my note of watching him, I was like, yeah, he is great. If he was on the Dolphins, could we have been deep in the playoffs the last 2 seasons? Probably.
Yeah.
But I've watched him make a lot of red zone errors, make a lot of red zone interceptions. Week 1 last year, Chiefs, going down, score a touchdown, you win the game, throws a pick right at the goal line. All throughout last year, makes sometimes some bad decisions, makes some beautiful throws, sometimes bad decisions. That drive, sure, we got those sacks, goes down on him throwing the ball away that's a mental bonehead mistake.
Yeah.
You cannot have an intentional grounding on 1st and 10 because there's pressure. Like you have to have quarterback awareness. Your awareness has to know what the situation is. You lose a down, you lose 14 yards, so now it's 2nd and 24.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
next play, sack. You have to use a timeout.
Another sack. But dude, intentional grounding might be the worst penalty in the NFL. Did you notice that? It was 1st and 10, right?
Yeah.
He did the intentional grounding. Then you lose a down and you lose 10 yards. So
it is
2nd
one
and
of the
20.
worst ones.
That's like the worst.
Because it's you're saying the worst, like it shouldn't be a penalty?
I'm just saying like the worst
yeah.
penalty, like the most
besides
penalized.
a deep down the field pass interference.
Yeah.
Which in college is different. It's a 10-yard penalty.
Wow.
Which
yeah.
and holding is a dry burner too. It's a 10-yard penalty, but
you don't lose it down, right?
Well, you don't lose it down. It's just replay of down.
Yeah.
Which you deserve. The reason it is because the intentional grounding is there to protect a quarterback from throwing the ball away when he's about to get sacked.
Yeah.
So that's why it should be that. Because if you didn't have that rule, anytime a guy was going to get sacked, he could just throw it anywhere he wants.
Yeah.
And it's just 2nd and 10.
Yeah.
So you have to be heavily penalized so that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what he was doing. He was avoiding a sack because all of a sudden we were setting pressure because on the 1st down, he gets a 15-yard out.
Uh-huh.
They have the ball at the 40.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, and that's it.
What's
There's
his
plenty
name?
of time.
Yeah. Everett.
Yeah. So then he gets an intentional ground and clock starts. They use a timeout.
Yeah.
Gets sacked again. They use their 2nd timeout. Now it's 3rd and 40 or something.
Wow.
You know, they use their final timeout, and then it's 4th down and we get the sack. But I mean, that's listen. I was sitting there going, we're down what are we? We're down 1 point. No, we're down 4, right? It's like 27 to like 31. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, there's 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. We have 3 timeouts. All the time in the world. I go, a franchise quarterback, you go down and score a touchdown. Otherwise, I'll even say not good enough. Like if in my mind he throws a pick, I go, this is what every game, all you want Mac Jones to do, all you want Lawrence to do, Justin Fields, all you can ask for in the NFL is, hey, the fourth quarter, 1 drive wins it.
Yeah.
That's all you want. That's why Elway was a Hall of Famer. That's why Marino was. That's what Brady did.
Yeah.
That's what Manning did. All of them can go, all right, 1 drive. Like everyone knows if you give, what's his name, 58 seconds, Mahomes, you're like, and he only has to get a field goal, the game's over.
Yeah.
That's why the Lions didn't punt the ball. They're like, we're going for it.
Yeah.
And then they didn't get it, and then Mahomes didn't get it as well, and the Lions got a little lucky. But going back, you're like, I'm going for it on 4th and 15 over punting it to Mahomes with a minute left. Like, I'm going for the win. And that's how you want a quarterback like that. So I'm like, hey, if he goes down and scores a touchdown, I'm all in. I'm back all in right now. Well, I'm back all in on Tua. He did it. And now Herbert, you have the reverse thing. If you're a Chargers fan, you're like, all right, hey, man, you have more than enough time.
Yeah.
You can't make a fucking intentional grounding call. Take the sack. You can't make that. If you were even going to get sacked, but have the awareness to know where to throw the ball away at least. And
that could have been
or
in his
scramble. He could have at least scrambled for a yard. Who knows?
Yeah, but also
it wasn't like he was going to immediately get sacked. He kind of just didn't have a read and throws it to the right. You didn't have a running back over here or someone across the middle, or you could have thrown it downfield. His arm is one of the strongest in the NFL. He easily, even though he's in the pocket, just thrown a ball.
Yeah.
Like, at least have that social awareness.
That could have been in his head the next 2 places. He really took those last 2 sacks.